We will.
I don't know if that's a good angle for Facebook.
Okay, all right, thank you.
We'll see when people start getting here. Oh, there we go. Yep, a couple minutes. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good.
How are you?
I was able to make it. So
Yay. Well, good. Did that make sense, Ken?
Yeah. No, it does.
Yeah. People like to say that, especially investors. They think because they never lived in the house, that makes them exempt from the property disclosure.
Yeah.
Not living in the house does not make you exempt.
Right. You know what else they never check is the water sufficient for the household use?
Oh,
I can't tell you how many times that's not checked.
unchecked, you mean? Like
Yeah.
they forget it somehow?
Like they on purpose don't fill it out.
Oh, really?
I don't know, I'm just assuming. Like,
Some of the questions I will say, the yes, no is tucked away like in like the beginning of the next sentence
Yeah.
or something. So there are some little hidden check boxes.
Yeah.
So I always want to make sure that it's all taken care of. But yeah, but investors like to think, or they cross off the property disclosure and then initial it. That means nothing. And that doesn't mean you're exempt because you crossed it off and initialed it. So and again, I always put an exemption form in my listing packet. And if a seller tries to tell me they're exempt from property disclosure, I pull out the exemption. And I want to say there's like 7 options. If you're not one of those, then the exemption form doesn't go into play. So therefore, then the property disclosure does. Yeah. So the other thing that sellers don't realize is if they don't have a property disclosure fully filled out, the buyer can void the contract at any time during the transaction. So there's a little,
Until they sign, right?
there's
They
a,
don't even put it
no.
up before, like, you're ready to make an offer.
that is true.
Can you get that up?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if I have a seller give me pushback about it, I'm gonna say, do you realize by not filling one out and not having one signed, that means the buyer has
They still have that option.
they could void, it's not a fully signed contract without it.
Right.
So the buyer could void the contract 2 days before closing if they want to, because you never did it. So that's the motivation for filling it out. And it's not to hurt the seller, it's actually to protect them.
Right.
So,
I just get in the top.
all right.
Hey, are you
We can
kicking
close
it
it.
off?
Yeah,
I'll close it. You want me to close it?
yeah, go ahead and close it. Anybody else who wants to join can,
I already see I have 4 people on Facebook.
okay, good. We've got a few on Zoom here, so we can go ahead and get started because I know there's going to be lots of questions. So it's 1 o'clock and we're going to go ahead and get started. If you want to sit here so that
Yeah,
you can
sure.
also be on the Zoom, just watch the cord. Hi, guys. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today's topic is lead conversion. We spend a ton of time talking about building your database and growing your sphere and all of these things of making sure that you have leads in front of you. When we don't really have a lead problem, we have a lead conversion problem. So most of us would say, especially people who do internet leads, we probably have a pretty big bank of those leads. It's what to do with them to get them to respond to you and also, of course, work with you and get them their transaction to come to a sale and then a close. So for those of you who don't know, this is Dan Lane. Dan started in real estate about 1.5 years ago and quickly graduated from coaching faster than anybody else ever did.
Yeah.
And then capped at the same time. So he's got some very good tips on lead conversion. So I'm just gonna roll it over to Dan and then he'll kind of just go over some stuff and then we'll just roll right into questions because I know a lot of you guys have a ton of questions.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna-
I stand.
Whatever you want to do.
I
Yeah, go
don't
ahead.
know. I never know what to do with my like hands and
Oh,
I don't know.
are you getting used to it? I
Yeah.
just sit.
So, no.
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing, and I was talking to a couple of people about speaking this because everyone gets leads from different areas. And it's like, do you approach the lead, the same, whether it's your sphere or not? So I guess, we'll dive into questions on specific, because like I was just talking to Preston and he's like, most of my people from a sphere.
Mhm.
And like that is, you already have rapport built, you already have stuff. So it's a different, and I know Tiffany, you all use a lot of Sphere as well. And a majority of mine was, well, I started off for sale by owners through Zillow, just cold calling everyone. And then as I got busier and busier, I found a lot of my leads were either referrals or continuing to be internet leads.
Okay.
And it was like, your referrals and your internet leads, you always have to get them to the same point. Your referrals, you're just starting off, or your Sphere, you're starting off at a different level, but you got to get your internet leads to that level.
That's
So,
right. Yeah.
so it's
You jumped a few steps when you have a referral.
correct.
You don't have the whole, you still nurture, but in a different kind of a way.
Absolutely. I mean, for instance, like listing appointments, you see this for your referrals. It's in your Sphere. It's like you walk in, you're like, here's the paper, like
Right.
go ahead and
Yeah, a little
sign
bit
it.
easier.
Yeah. Or you have an internet lead, they don't know who you are, they don't know why they should use you, and you really have to build that relationship with them. So I kind of want to talk about like just a broad, I guess, sense or generalization of like, this is how we get there and this is how we do it.
Yeah.
So just know, I guess, keep in the back of your mind, like your Sphere and referrals, they're already a couple steps ahead. But ultimately, like one thing I always kept in mind, and this is throughout all sales in general, it's like if somebody calls you, however they reach out to you, whether it's their Boomtown, whether it's your Sphere, and they're asking and they're entertaining the idea of buying a home, and you never hear from them again, one thing that you can be 100% sure of is that those people just didn't give up on
Right.
buying a home.
Right.
Like, it's not like they called you once and then for some reason you
Changed
didn't
their
connect.
mind.
And then they're
Yeah.
like, you know what, I'm never going to be a homeowner ever
Right.
again. So you have to keep in mind that people reaching out to you somewhere, they're all at different stages of the home buying process, but somewhere in their mind, they want to be a homeowner. So you have to that seed is in their head, and your idea is you want them when they can, whether they can buy now in a week or 2 weeks, you want to be their realtor whenever they do
Right.
buy. So for me, a priority was always just getting in front of them. The number one thing, 80%, I read this somewhere, I don't know, if the study isn't done over, but I read somewhere that 80% of people buy with the first realtor they meet face to face.
That's true.
So my priority was not to bog them down with pre-qualification questions or pre-approvals or processes. My priority was just get in front of them, whether it's at a coffee shop or usually in a house.
Yep.
Normally, like an internet lead is calling you on a specific home. So if they called me, and I remember one of my first, I know you were this was a big one, dude. There was a home out in Perry Township. It was like a HUD home.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember this home
Uh-uh.
because you had so many people asking me questions on it in the Broker
Okay.
group. So it was a HUD home, and it was like a go and show, so we could just go. And there was like they weren't accepting offers for like 2 weeks or something. There was like a long offer. There was the HUD bidding process,
Sure, right.
or
Online,
whatever
yes.
was going on.
Yes, so investors can start after the period of time, but regular
Right, you
homeowners
could
can
basically
bid,
write
yeah.
offers into the HUD website.
Right.
I met everybody out there. Like
I kind of do remember that.
Yeah,
Didn't you even have people coming in when you were there showing?
yes. So I was
yeah.
there showing, and literally, so I met like one person out there, and then like throughout the showing, I had 4 other people just
Yeah,
randomly show
show
up and without realtors, and to a point where I just parked my car out there, and as people drove by to check it out, like I would just get out and like. It was go and show, so I could just book it
Whatever,
right there and then take them in. But so I guess to the point is meeting people those face to face. I got 5 or 6 sales off of that one home. And
it wasn't even your list.
and I never sold that home.
Really?
Yes,
Okay,
I had
okay.
5 or 6 sales, and I never sold the
That's
actual home that I was.
And it wasn't your listing.
And it was not my listing.
Yeah, so that's
Yes,
crazy.
it was not my listing. It was just because when they market HUD homes online, it's like $50,000 and it's a
Yeah.
nice home. And really that's like a starting bidding point.
Yes.
So that just happened to be a lead generation method, I guess, for me. And a lot of the things I'm hearing from people I talk about this class was not only how do you convert the leads, but how do you get them? So, and the simplest thing is like something like that. If there is a home out there, I mean, it might sound like a little desperate, but I mean, really, if you just go out to that home, there's people showing up, like those slow drive-bys that are like looking at the signs and stuff. Like I would do that. If anyone would like creep past, I would jump in and be like, hey, only if it's a go and show.
Yeah, right.
You're not sitting out in someone's parking lot
Right.
or driveway. But if it's a go and show, I'd be like, hey, you want to go inside?
So like what I'm hearing is you got creative every single day because your thought process was, this is my full-time job. And if I don't have appointments today, I'm gonna go figure out how I'm gonna get appointments.
A-
And then you're gonna do things outside of the box to make it happen.
Well, absolutely. I mean, at this point in time, I had recently, I got fired for being a realtor because at one point in time, I had because I started off dual jobs. And at
Yeah,
one point I had to make a choice. It was like, go show a $300,000 home or, go into work.
yeah.
And I went and showed the $300,000 home
Sure.
and I got fired.
Oh, okay,
I
gotcha.
don't know if you knew that, but.
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
Uh-uh. How
so
funny.
at this point in time, I was like,
So
I
for
got.
those of you dual career people, you
Yes.
might get fired.
Yes, you might, but it worked out, beautifully for me. But
Yes.
so then I was like, oh no, I don't have a job.
Right.
So I had to go find it. And part of that was like I would literally like sit outside of like homes like that were, vacant and also very popular. And I could catch some leads like that,
Wow.
and then I met these buyers face to face and build a relationship with them. So I guess my first big thing about lead conversion would be get in front of them as a face to face. Don't just like take a phone call and it's always great to show people that are pre-approved and we can don't be afraid to reach out to me if you have certain concerns about showing people homes that aren't pre-approved. There's ways that you can ask questions on the phone. For instance, like if I'm on the phone with someone and they go, do you think the seller is going to do like land contract with me? Like I might be more apt to say, hey, why don't you talk to my lender first,
Right.
versus, or do you think they'll do rent to own or something?
Sure.
That those are red flags that
Yeah,
for you, so there are ways in the conversation, but ultimately when I get a lead, my conversations are like 1 to 2 minutes. And it's like, when this home that you called on, when do you want to see it? How do you want to see it? Or when do you want to see it? Like, and what are your times that are available and how quick can we get out there?
yeah,
So to me, that is the most crucial thing is just getting in front of those people, whether it's a coffee shop or in a home, just think of it as a buyer consult.
mhm,
You don't think of it as I'm going to waste a time showing someone a home that may or may not be approved. Think of it as this is somebody interested in buying a home and this is my buyer consult. And I am going to show everyone at least one home. Everyone gets at least one meeting with me,
right,
and whether that consult takes place in a home or not. The benefit of having your buyer consult in the first home you're showing somebody is that they might like it and buy it.
right, yeah, does happen.
It does. It happened a lot. Like, I
Right.
would just show somebody a home and that would be the one. And all of a sudden I'm like 2 or 3 hours in and I have a deal under contract,
Yeah.
with the same person. There are other people that took 20 homes, but
Right.
it weighs out. So I guess my first thing would be don't be afraid to take that leap of faith with somebody and just meet them in a home, especially without having any really background knowledge of
Mhm.
them. Throughout the phone conversation, there are a couple things I always ask when someone calls me if I've never met them. And, is this your first time buying a home? Do you have any questions for me? Just as far as the process or anything before we go out and see that home. So I never I never indicate that I'm not going to show them the home, right? I'm always very agreeable. I'm always, yeah, absolutely. Okay. You want to see this home? When are you free? Okay, awesome. And I just always ask people, is this your first time buying a home or, are you a veteran at home buying? Do you have any questions for me about how things work, process wise? And if they're like, yeah, it's my first time home, that might give me an indication to maybe ask some more questions, or they might have questions themselves.
Sure.
Lots of times they'll bring up the process of being.
So these are leads coming to you, phone calls to you from Zillow or?
So this would be, but this is whether it's a referral. So
Okay.
like, for instance, this would be like, recently I had somebody that I sold a house to a year ago. They called me and, they wanted me just talk. They said, can you call my sister? She's looking for a home. I told her
Gotcha.
you're gonna be called.
Perfect.
So even that, I mean, you're calling the specific example on a home would be yes. If somebody's calling me through Zillow or Opcity or Boomtown or some sort of online platform where there's a home that they
Mhm.
might want to see, that's where you're just trying to get them in that home.
Right.
But the conversation is the same. I mean, the only difference I prefer that because if I'm calling your sister to ask her about buying a home, now I have to find her a home,
Yeah. Right.
to meet her in.
Because you're not calling in response to, hey, I saw you visited my website and looked at this house.
Sure.
You're calling and saying, tell me how I can help you.
Right. And that conversation, obviously, it's also a
Little
little
bit different.
longer and
Yeah.
a little bit like, what are you looking for? But ultimately, the ultimate goal is to get in front of these people. And you can.
So you add the lead, let's just say it's a referral. So
Mhm.
like, I want people to hear, like, you get this lead and then you have your phone conversation. your still main objective, even at that point, no matter what their time frame is let's get in front of a house and let me meet you face to face.
Right, I need a relationship with
Yeah.
them, because everyone, I mean, you could throw a rock in any random direction and hit 5 realtors.
Right.
Right. You know,
That's
so
true.
so there are realtors everywhere. They probably have somebody, even though it's the sister of somebody of one of my clients,
Yeah.
they also probably know
Sure.
5 or have connections to 5 or 6 of the realtors. The quicker I can make a relationship with them, the better. I mean, I just sold, actually it was a deal, you remember the deal we did together,
Yeah.
the nice house. So
Yeah.
they were good friends of a very big agent in this brokerage.
Oh.
Like they had a connection, a very close connection to someone who's very, very big here
Oh.
at Legacy Group. Why did they use me? Because they actually were a Zillow call.
Okay. Okay.
And I showed them a house, and right away, like we built a rapport, and I was just very accessible to them, which is the next thing we'll jump into, where they were like, I made it to a point where I always say, hey, I will send you homes, but most of my people are always on like Zillow or online looking at homes.
Mhm.
And if you see a home like before I do, just text me the address to you and I will get you in it the same day, or at least 24 hours.
Mhm.
That's a big commitment to make to somebody. But
Right.
if you want to, and everyone's got, I always advocate, you want to have a life, but also if you want to sell 103 homes in your first year, you can't have a life.
Right.
So-
Right. I mean, it is the
so-
reality. So like you do the hard work and then you reap the benefits.
Right.
If you don't do the hard work, there's no benefits that you can now say, now I can use some discretion and I could potentially only work with people I want to work with.
Right, absolutely. I mean, this year I'm doing, 2 to 3 listings a month, and it's effortless. And
Yeah.
I'm happy that, I mean, I got a lot of stuff going on, and other things, but I mean, I'm doing 2, 3 months and I'm not marketing at all. And
Right.
that's just from the 100 homes I sold in my first year. And that's a beautiful thing,
Right,
I mean, I
right.
sold $1 million worth of real estate this last month in March, and with 0 marketing budget.
Yeah, right.
It's
It's the time that it is right now. We don't really need to market homes because they hit the MLS and they're
Yeah.
gone.
But I meant like lead marketing and everything. This is just all from referrals.
Okay,
that,
gotcha.
that all from previous clients that I did
Gotcha.
last year, that it just comes back to you. So
Right.
it's
So what are you doing with those people? So the people that are, let's just talk about your 100 and some past clients
Okay.
from last year. So what kinds of things are you doing with them? So because we all know referrals are going to get you to a sale much, much faster. They're closer to the bottom of the funnel there versus your random internet leads or sign calls. So tell me, what kinds of things were you doing last year to stay in front of your past clients?
Well, not enough, to be honest. Like, I
Okay.
know I was bad as far as your teachings. You should definitely do that, because I would, I would probably have sold, I'd probably be selling 7 to 8 a month if I were doing the follow-up as I should have been. So really, I'm a big, if we ever talk, it's all about relationships with me. And I wish out of those 100, unfortunately, I didn't make as many strong. I mean, I sold a lot of homes,
Mhm.
but my referrals are all from when I really just built a relationship with the people. They're from those people. And that is all about, like, I always say, like, make a friend, make a sale. Like,
Okay.
like when I'm in a house, I'm not just there. Like, I don't want to go up and unlock the door and be like, here's a bathroom.
Right.
Here's here's a kitchen.
So what kind of conversation are you having in the house?
So the conversations I have are really just getting to know them and what they want and what's best for them. So, if someone tells me they want an open kitchen, or if someone asks me like their opinion on this, I'm going to say, hey, I really like this house. You told me you wanted an open kitchen though. Can you see yourself living with this kitchen? And then just advising them, like, based off their needs and like their wants and their personality. I never would like lie to someone and tell them I like something in a house that
Sure.
if I didn't. I mean, I might not tell them how much I hate it,
Right.
but I would never, I never, like, I guess, I'm always just very real with people in their homes and just build a legit relationship with them. As far as, this is what you're looking for, this is what you need. And I'm just always accessible to them. I'm always having conversations with them, even at the time I get to know, what they're bringing their family, I get to know their family and stuff. And it's just very relationship based. Those are who I get really strong referrals out of. They're the people that referred me 3 or 4 or 5 times out of them. And even to the point where I had someone fly internationally with me to visit me in Colombia. When I was in
Oh, wow.
Colombia. So I had a wedding ceremony in Colombia, and I had clients come
Wow.
to Colombia with me.
Wow.
So you can really build some amazing relationships with
So
people.
how do you get, because I know what people are probably thinking, so
Yeah.
how do you get from an internet lead to a relationship?
So the first step, as we kind of discovered, is go out and meet them
Mhm.
because, like, I just think of this. I say you don't really know anything about real estate, and you see a house, and you think this might be the house for you, and you call somebody,
Right.
and whoever just picks up, however, whether it's a realtor, obviously, you get somebody on the phone, and they're like, "Yeah, I think I have some availability, like in 2 days." And the only thing you know about the real estate market is the houses are going quick.
Yes,
I mean, you're probably gonna call somebody else,
Of course.
or the listing agent,
Yes.
or somebody, and you don't know, like, why won't this guy go show me right now?
right,
Or what if I lose this home? So primary is get in there as fast as possible. It's hard to drop what you're doing, but unfortunately, if you got an internet lead, like sometimes that's what you have to do.
yeah,
if
speed
you
to
want
lead.
it.
So if you want that lead, you need to pick up the phone, call them, or if you're answering a call
As-
that's coming in, you've got to be able to do it.
As soon as they come in, if it's on a house, because if you don't get it right away,
Yeah.
you're gonna lose it. So then getting into the house with them, talking to them a little bit just about them. When you get into the house, I discuss with them, a little bit about. That's when I start hitting them about what are you looking for? What do you like about this house? What do you not like about this house? Even if they say they love this house, right then I'm ask them if they want to write an offer on it or something, and then go into offer discussion. But if they're not liking the house, that's a great opportunity for me to figure out what don't they like about it.
Right.
Because then I can say, okay, well, so we're looking, then I'll keep repeating everything back to them that they said, right? So we're looking for, so we don't like, that this house doesn't have an open kitchen and that it's a split level. You want everything on one level. In your mind, you might be saying, well, why are we even in this house?
Yeah, that's true.
but it's a great opportunity to okay, so you prefer one level. Now, let me ask you though, if you're also looking for an acre, so you would entertain a split level if it had more than an acre and the laundry wasn't in like the basement.
Right.
Or something. You just have a conversation with the one you're looking for, and then you send them a couple, and then I don't think the relationship happens like in the first house. That's where
Sure.
it starts.
Yeah.
But I mean, by the time you're 3-4 houses in, like these people should be inviting you to Christmas dinner.
Right.
Like,
So then you're sending them an auto email then, or you send them through
So-
search
so
kind of thing?
lots of times because of how busy I was, I would set them up on auto
Mhm.
because I think at a certain level of business, you don't have time to browse the MLS
Absolutely.
every day. So I'd set them up on an email through your website or Boom. I think Boomtown's a lot better than the MLS autosave.
Correct.
But worst case, the MLS,
Yeah,
and I would always set their parameters very wide. Even if the people were super specific about what they wanted, like they said they would take a half acre, I'm sending them homes with a quarter acre.
sure.
Because if a home with a quarter acre has everything else that they want,
That's right.
they will want to go see it.
Absolutely. So in your follow-up, you're really not just, hey, just checking in. It's, hey, I saw this house. Would you like to get back out? What does that look like?
Yeah. So before I leave though, I tell them, I hit them with that line. I say, I will send you some homes and I will look for this. But a lot of my people are looking every morning and stuff. And they're like, yeah, that's us. Or they're like, my wife, yeah, she's always on Zillow looking every day. That's how it is. I say, if you see something and you have questions about it, and you want to maybe even see, I'll bring up the property disclosure, for instance. Because I mean, what kind of services? I mean, how easy is it for us to go in MLS and email somebody a property disclosure?
For sure.
And that is a service that you're providing to somebody.
Mhm.
It might seem like silly to you, but to them, it's like you just gave them extra information on the house that they don't have access to.
Correct.
Like they don't have access to that property disclosure on Zillow.
And if you're taking that step and whoever else they were talking to did not, it's just keeping that connection.
It's keeping that connection, like, oh wow. And then you have people going, Dan, I think I'm interested in this house. Do they have that property disclosure up? I saw a picture or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, here's the property disclosure. And they're like, okay. So it's just the more communication, the better. So I always hit them with that line though. If you need to see like a property disclosure or anything, or if you just want to get into it, all you have to do is text me address. I'll get you right out there. And it's just very convenient for them. It's almost like they have their own like personal showing time app. I'm the app. They just have to text me.
Right,
They
yeah.
just have to text me the address and a time,
Yes.
and I get them out there. So accessibility is huge. I would say it's the number one thing because I've had internet calls where we're working with other agents. That agent can't show them a home.
Right.
And ultimately I've won clients over like that.
Yeah. So I would say, and so what would your advice be? Because you started out with another full-time job
Yeah.
and then, weeded in just a real estate. So as a person who has another full-time job, what would be your recommendation for being accessible?
So it's hard, right? Because ultimately what I got fired from my other job for being accessible.
Right.
But I think what happens is you have to, I think life will force you to prioritize, and at a certain busyness level. I mean, I was only a month and a half in, but a certain busyness level, you're going to have to make a sort of commitment. If you work a full-time job, are you going to be able to be as accessible as somebody who's full-time realtor? It's just impossible.
Right.
You can't.
If you have a job that's fluid, like real estate, where you can kind of work from home and have available time to be on your phone.
Yeah.
Other than a 9 to 5.
Other than a 9 to 5. I mean, yeah, I was working a 9 to 5. So there's, I mean, I guess at a certain point, life will make you decide, and you'll have to come to a decision. And it's been it's crazy because if I look back at my career path, there's always been, like, before real estate, there was a situation where it was like I had to decide if I was going to go to the restaurant or take my first step into sales. And I got fired from my restaurant. So it seems to be a common trend.
Yeah.
But is that I work until, like, literally something forces me to make a decision, because I would have done both forever until it came down to you have to decide. And then I just have to look at the future potential of both options. And my future potential was, I'm going to make $12,000 selling this $300,000 house, or I'm going to, stay here and make $400 or $300 for the day.
Right.
And what's the bigger potential? I'm going to go, and I sold the $300 thing, thankfully.
Yeah. Right.
And they're one of my biggest clients still. But I think, I don't think you should quit your job necessarily right away, but I think that you should, because if you don't have a $300,000 client, there's no reason for you to quit your job.
Right. Yeah, right.
But before I got that $300,000 client, I was door knocking. You remember, I was door knocking and stuff after work. Like, I was working on that. So
that's another part of how you've got a lot of business. So you were out there door knocking. Tell us a little bit about what you were doing for sale by owners? I vaguely remember.
So my first sale ever, which
vacant land, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't vacant.
That one on the corner.
My first sale was a listing.
Okay.
It was a duplex.
Oh, right.
It was a nightmare. I actually almost didn't want to continue real estate because it was bad. The renters didn't want to get out.
I remember that. Yeah.
I had to climb through a window.
Yeah.
Yeah. We gave them tenants notice. We showed up with the inspectors. They wouldn't let us in. I had notice. I had to climb through a window. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And then the seller was fighting over a $500 repair contingency. It was a nightmare. But I got that guy off of calling, I would go on Zillow. I would look at the houses that were for sale by owner, and I would basically just call them or text them, and I forget my exact script, but it probably wasn't very good because I didn't I was just like, hey, I'm Dan. I think I even said I'm a new realtor, or I think I said I'm new to the area, or I'm new to the area, and I'm trying to build my business as a real estate agent, and I would love to and it had something to do with I'll work real hard to prove that to you and something. And they were like, yeah. So it probably wasn't a great script when I thought about it, but here's the thing. Action creates your reaction.
That's right.
You can do everything wrong,
right,
but at 100% capacity, and you'll
accidentally knock into one.
Yeah. Which is what happened.
Yes.
And then I was also door knocking, which I remember, Eric Henry was big in door knocking. So our first conversation, we started back then. You helped me with that. And then ultimately I found a $300,000 client, and then made the choice, got fired, and then sold the $300,000 client, used that money. I leveraged some into $500 a month in leads. And I was just very good at converting. And that $500 a month I spent, I think I threw 500 in Zillow and then a month, and then I sold 3 homes off. It just grew. And
that's another good point. So I think agents sometimes don't realize that real estate's not a job, it's a business. And luckily we're in a time right now that it's not as costly as a business as it has ever been in the past. So agents before used to have to spend, and I'm not joking, teams would spend $50,000 a year on ads in the newspaper, 50,000. Because it was very expensive to run a full page color ad in the real estate section of the repository. So, it's very inexpensive right now. So for agents who aren't realizing that to grow their business, they have to feed more money back into it, you're not going to see the success as fast and easily. So like you immediately budgeted some of that commission to be able to get some leads bought.
I mean, here, so door knocking, I don't like it.
No one does, I don't think,
It's not fun.
Right.
So I thought like this, I was like, man, at one point I was sitting in my car and I had the two closings coming up, the for sale by owner, and I think I did have some vacant land, a small one, and I was like, man, I wish I could just pay someone to do this for me. And then I was like, you know what if I just bought some leads? I
Yeah.
was like, and then so that kind of gave me the realization is to get leads, you're either going to spend your time or your money.
Yes.
And I preferred opening doors. I preferred spending $500 a month and having some people do it than knocking on doors and people yelling at
Yes.
me.
It's not my thing either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I was like, okay, well, I prefer $500 a month. And then when I spent that 500 and it turned into $4,000, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna just put an extra 500 in, and then that turned into 8,
Right.
and then sort of things got a little out of control.
But all those leads that are coming in when it was at the beginning, you're still talking to every single one of them. Yes.
Yeah.
As much as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was meeting every single one of them, and I was dropping what I was doing and going and meeting every single one of them at home. I mean, that is the most, like I said, getting to the home with them, open the door, introduce yourself, be happy, be helpful, be truthful, be like just a real person to them, but also let them know, like I always say, if you want this house, I'm gonna get this house for you.
Right.
Keep
going.
So accessibility, doing the first meet. And the great time to have those conversations about pre-approvals, I said, is in the house with them.
Right.
So like we're in there and we're talking about the houses that they like and not. And then at that point, you can have that conversation with them about what's going on in the market. These houses are going in a day or two. I'm happy to show you any houses. Would you mind if I had my lender call you? Or, do you if they like the house right now, the great thing is, you get them approved now. We all work with lenders that are very quick. But if not, you can have that conversation. It's okay to have my lender call you.
Right. And I like that. It's not, here's some information, give the lender a call. Is it okay if my lender calls you?
Absolutely.
Because they probably won't do it.
Correct.
And once they give permission, then they're more willing to answer the phone when someone calls.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And, I had a relationship built with my lender, is in that one, if my lender could call them and they were with them, they're definitely sticking with me.
Yeah.
Right. Because now I got a whole team. My whole team is taking care of it.
Right.
Like, it's not like they could go show another house and my lender is going to tell me, like, if they're trying to use somebody else,
right. For
like,
sure. And it's making those connections and they start to feel loyal to you because you're helping them make those connections.
Correct. So we circle them all, like, so I would be involved in every aspect of the loan, from the lending side to the real estate side, and then of course then we end up bringing in the title company side,
right.
And I would have my whole entire team is basically serving. Right.
So if you can say just like one thing that was the lead conversion idea, or what action caused most of your sales?
So we did our offer writing class, so it all works together. So offer writing is definitely huge, but to get into the lead actual conversion thing, the number one thing is just get up and go. I would say, and maybe we can do another class on generating the leads, because this is more about converging, but it is literally, I mean, you have to be accessible, and I can't stress enough, and I always hate. And I understand why realtors make people get pre-approved before they show them one home, but I guess I don't. I feel like that just eliminates such a huge.
It does. I would never do that. I would never. I'm not going to lose the opportunity of a buyer who, one, sometimes they don't want to get pre-approved before you meet them for a couple of reasons. One is, I'm confident as a buyer, I have an 800 credit score and I'll damn well get pre-approved when I'm ready.
Yeah, those people.
You've got those. And then you have the ones that are like, I'm just thinking about this and maybe I can get pre-approved, but I'm not 100% sure yet. So I'm a little cautious of doing it until I know for sure. And then, but again, if you make them wait until they decide to make the decision, they're waiting to work with you, or you're waiting to work with them, they're going to call somebody else
Yeah.
meanwhile, they
Yeah,
are.
yeah, or what happens is they say, okay, well, I'll stop at my bank because you didn't meet them out there and control the lender.
Right,
And they stop at their bank and then their bank goes, well, have you ever met that realtor?
right,
No, well, here's five,
that's right,
you know, because especially like if I'm a lender and someone calls me and they don't have a realtor they're working with, I'm gonna give them to one of
For
my
sure.
friends,
Right,
you know, or one of
right.
my people.
yeah, and most people aren't wanting to waste their time or yours if they actually can't get pre-approved.
Correct.
Not to say that people don't sometimes not get pre-approved, of course. But I do find it a little rigid when people say I won't work with not pre-approved buyers. It's a choice,
Right.
but you're also choosing to potentially lose a good percentage of buyers because they will eventually get
So-
pre-approved. And there comes a line, right? So like, you're not gonna waste every weekend with a buyer who's loosey-goosey and you think that they potentially can't get approved.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my big thing is everyone gets one unless I'm 100% sure, like if I run into the 800 credit score
Right.
lawyer who's like, I'll get approved on it.
That's
You know,
right.
yeah, and but you know those people, like
do.
you can tell. But I mean, there's also times like, for instance, one line I'll use if I'm talking to somebody and I'll be like, okay, so do you know, like if somebody's like I'll be like, do you know if you're FH? I'm gonna help you look for more homes. You know, this one didn't really work out for you. You told me what you liked. I'm gonna help look for your other homes. Do you know if you're FHA or conventional? And if they go, huh?
Right, yeah.
They go, what's that mean? Well, I said, well, FHA, is like a first time home buyer program. There's some things in houses that you know, they have some criteria and stuff. I just was wondering if you knew if you're FHA or conventional. So when I'm looking at homes, I know, you know, if I can only send you a, you know, if you're FHA and one won't pass, I want to leave that one out.
Right.
And they're like, I don't know. I'll help you figure it out. I'm gonna have somebody I'll call you.
Right.
So
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, like now you know exactly where they are. You know,
Right.
they haven't talked to anyone, they don't know anything about
Right.
you know.
Absolutely.
So there are ways to ask people about pre-approved without just going, are you pre-approved?
Right.
You know, you can lead into it.
Gotcha.
You know, because they'll start asking you questions about being pre-approved and you
Correct.
can't necessarily
One would
answer.
hope. And so like how often, and I know it happened often, that you went out with someone one time and they were ready to make an offer.
Okay, I mean, lots
lot.
of options, but and then then they had to get, and then usually they weren't approved,
Right, right,
which is, you know, like I said, why we work with lenders that can approve people in 30 minutes on a weekend.
right.
But it was well, a lot of times when we go out there, we would win it. We would just win an offer. It would be super. I mean, those are the best.
And I know that's a question. So tell us, I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago when we did the multiple offer workshop, but so like, when you look back at last year, what do you think was the most common reason that your offers would get accepted in multiple offer situations?
I mean, listing agent communication was huge. Working with my lender to communicate with the listing agent. My lender called in a multiple offer situation. My lender was always calling the listing agent, and she was telling him exactly what I told. Like I would feed her what to say, or I wanted her to say about that thing. I would write. So listing agent relationship was huge. And to a certain point, I would even like halfway through the year, I would even show my numbers and be like, this is how many buyers I've closed these years. I'll close this year. I
Yeah.
promise you, we're not going to have any issues.
Right. To the listing agent, you mean?
To the listing agent.
Okay.
Like, look, I am like a buyer expert.
Right, yeah.
You know, and then, you know, one big thing that I always did with my buyers, and this was huge, and Mark, is because the biggest question is the buyers don't know what to write. They go, Dan, what do I write? You know, and I would tell them this. I am going to write the strongest possible offer that you can physically write based off your limits. And then we're going to go over it together. And if you feel anything makes you uncomfortable in that offer, me and you, we're going to edit it down. We're going to water it down. We're going to start with as strong as you want,
Okay.
like the highest price that you can offer, you know, with the least amount of contingencies, if any, and then we'll go over it, me and you, line by line. If it makes you uncomfortable, we'll start adding stuff in or taking down the price and stuff. So let me just go home and I'll write that for you. Then we'll get on the phone together. And lots of times I would write them like, I would just write them a strong, like this offer's got to win.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And then they would get it and they would look at it and they would go, yeah, that looks good.
It's interesting. I mean, that's a reverse way of doing it, but I like that. So that's
Yeah.
interesting. So you're not saying, I have some questions for you. What do you want to offer? How much is your earnest money? Do you want to do inspections? You're writing the strong offer, you're telling them I'm gonna write it up, I'll share it with you in Dotlib, and then we can modify from
Then we
there.
can modify it, because I'm just, and this is all in a situation if they're like, this is my dream house, I
Yes.
love it, like, what do
Right,
you, because
gotta
you don't
have
want
it.
to, you don't want to be the guy that tells somebody to offer 30 grand over asking.
Right,
Like, but at the same time, like, you can't gauge like how much they want it, like, you know, if
Right.
they want it, so you write as strong as offer as they can. If you know they can do an appraisal gap or something, you might even include that, and then you just go over it piece by piece. And if something makes them uncomfortable, if they go, I love the offer, but Dan, if it doesn't appraise for that, I'm not paying it, great, we throw this out.
okay,
But no matter what, if they adjust one thing from your offer and they lose, it's not your fault,
correct.
because
So do you throw in their possession, what about home
well,
inspections,
I
things like
talk,
that?
so that's part of my listing agent relationship. I talk to
Yeah.
the listing agent about, do the buyers need possession? Do the buyers need, blah, 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 and then I'll communicate with them, my buyers are physically able to give possession,
Sure.
like they're, like, nobody's gonna be homeless.
Right,
But then I'll give it to them,
right.
and then we'll adjust it from there.
So as you're going over it, hey, on the offer, I gave the seller 30 days possession. How do you feel
Yeah.
about that at this point? And then they can
Yeah.
say yes or no.
And that might be something I would swing by my buyers before I wrote it,
Gotcha.
like, can you
Can you do it?
like,
Yeah.
because I'm writing as strong as they can. If they
Sure.
can't, like, if they're gonna have to stay in a van down by
Right.
the river.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
I don't want to do that, but so I write as strong as I can, and then I call them. But and that does a couple things. One, it protects me from looking bad, because if they change anything, then and even like when we get to the inspections, I'm like, listen, I'm not recommending that you waive inspections.
Right,
I'm just telling you we're against 8 offers. Probably somebody did waive inspections, so this is just no contingencies is the strongest that you can write.
correct.
I'm not saying you should, but I'm saying someone probably did.
Well, they did, probably
Yeah,
8 people did, yeah.
And if they modify your offer down and they lose, then it wasn't what you recommended, so they're not mad at you. If they say okay and they lose, it's not your fault either, because these people physically couldn't have written more. Like, you did your best.
That's right.
Like,
They
you-
couldn't
you-
go higher.
you-
That's what they were pre-approved for.
So,
Gave it your best shot.
so either way, like, you're not the agent that lost the home for them.
Right.
You know, either they modified down your offer or they tried their best.
I like that. Yeah.
You know,
I like that.
because I started doing this because I had a couple clients that would come to me and said, this agent's lost me 4 offers. We don't want to work with them anymore. We want to work with you.
Gotcha.
And I was like, man, I don't want anyone out there sick, because I mean, I did lose offers.
Of course, yeah.
Not many.
Right, yeah.
Kidding. I did
It's
lose.
worse this year than last year,
Yes,
so,
it is worse this year.
Yeah.
But I did lose offers, and I never wanted anyone out there saying that about me. So I
Right.
kind of had to think of a way to write offers, but also not have that image with my clients as far as that. And also, I wanted to be able to sort of tell them I think everyone should have a home inspection, but it's just, if you got 10 offers.
and my thought about that is this, what could be so wrong, because we've looked at it, we don't know what the attic looks like, we don't know what the
Yeah.
roof looks like, we don't know if it's an older furnace, like things like that, but my thought process is always, but you're willing to pay 40,000 over asking price,
Yeah.
and we're worried about the couple $1,000s that could potentially be wrong with the house that we went and saw was in great condition.
Right.
So it is a thing, it's a thing, like, so if the worst case scenario is it churns up with radon, would that have caused you not to buy it? No. So then test afterwards, and then if you need to install a mitigation, do it after closing, it's not, of course, about saying don't do the inspections, but let's face it, we're up against a lot right now. When you've got 50, it used to be 10 offers, now it's 50.
There is a lot less homes on the market for sure. I mean, I sold someone a home last year, and they called me this month to sell it, and it's like $40,000. They haven't done anything to it. $40,000 more than I sold to them last year.
Wow.
And
Why do they want to move?
they wanted with a girlfriend or something.
Oh,
They were
okay,
moving
gotcha.
with their girlfriend.
Wow.
now.
Nice.
Or because they could make $30,000.
Absolutely, yeah.
a year. It's like a big upturn. I don't know if it'll raise, but we'll see.
I mean, I think the appraisers aren't really looking at what someone paid. It doesn't matter what they paid
Yeah, it's
for it.
matter, right.
It matters what's comparable now. So same, I had a seller who still hasn't bought a house. I sold her house last fall, and we we could have gotten 30 more thousand for it right
This
now.
fall.
For sure, absolutely.
So I wonder, is it a question time?
Yeah,
or- I
yeah,
don't know
great.
if
We've got about 20 minutes left. So what questions? So just to recap, so you feel, in your opinion, based on the business that you had last year, the top reasons you were able to convert leads, what I'm hearing you say is one, being accessible, being very accessible,
Yeah.
responding to them as soon as possible, and getting them out to do a face-to-face as soon as possible to a house or a coffee shop or whatever you need to do to get in front of them. And then I love the idea of, hey, we're gonna make this strong offer, and then we can look at it together, and whatever you're not comfortable with, we can modify from there.
Correct. Yep.
So I
Yeah.
love that. That's fantastic.
I think I would say whatever you're not, I said, I'll rate the strongest offer, and if anything you're not comfortable with, we can sort of water it down a little bit.
Correct.
You
Yeah,
know?
for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Um,
But staying in front of the people once you have major face-to-face obviously factors in.
It's, I mean, it definitely does, but so, I mean, and it depends on, it's, everyone's at a different stage of their buying process. Some you might just put on a trip. But if you build that relationship with them, they're gonna keep you in mind. Text them every now and then. I mean, even set in your calendar, like if you meet Judy and Judy like, I don't know, I'm just looking, the house pop up, put in your Google Calendar next month,
Mhm.
text Judy, see how she's doing,
Right.
and then it'll remind you just to say, hey.
You can set to-dos in Boomtown now.
Yeah, yeah.
So you should be doing that. Yes.
So to do in Boomtown, but ultimately, yeah, that line, text me an address, I'll get you in it, or send you over this property disclosures, and just make yourself very, very accessible, very easy to work with, super easy. All I gotta do is text this guy an address, and he's gonna get me inside, and then that's however you're getting leads. I talked to one agent here before, and he was like, I don't really have, when it comes to getting leads, whether it's fear or buying them, he said, I don't have, I don't want to spend a ton. And I just said, it's not, they don't want to spend a ton. It's just that, like, say if you only have $100 to your name, and I said, hey, give me $50 and I'll double it. I mean, $100, you don't have very much money, but if I'm going to double and you're 100% sure that it's going to double, you do
Right.
it. If I said, give me every dollar you have,
Right.
you would double it. So I think it's more about certainty and just like finding a lead source that, whether it's your time or money, because both are the same. I look at both equally, whether you're going to spend your time or spend your money, because both can be measured.
Correct.
You just need to find a lead source, whether it's door knocking, calling for sale by owners, or buying leads that you're 100% confident in is going to work, and then you just need to dive all into it and get those leads.
And really it's the action. So it's not anyone can take certain steps, and learn about those things, but it's the constant action and acting on all of these things that are going to make it happen.
But if you only have $100 and you spend $90 on leads and you have $10 to your name, you're going to act.
That's right. Absolutely.
Because otherwise you're going to be broke.
That's right. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Who has questions? Anybody in here? Anyone on the Zoom want to unmute yourself? We've got about 15 minutes for questions.
Oh,
yeah.
So your follow-up with the people that you are working with, your list of buyers that you have right now, I know you probably do more listings right now. You said,
yeah.
but even in the past, what was your follow-up like with them, other than you were sending them the emails of homes that were coming out daily? Like, how often were you checking in with them other than that?
So once a month, and this one really was really sort of surprising, because I thought she had, so over a year ago, there was a buyer I had that couldn't get qualified. And I set her up on the MLS listing. And you know how you can see if people are like checking or whatever. That's how I know if my buyers are still interested, sort of.
Right.
So if I see them checking, every month or so, I'll message and be like, hey, I think I messaged her one time and just said, hey, just letting you know I didn't forget about you. And she was like, thank you so much. We're still out here. So, we have these, a lot of us have these websites, or even on the MLS, you can see when people do it. So as long as they're still actively, and I should have, like I said, I could have been better. I know you're really good. That's one of the things I've heard about you. You're very good at follow-up, and staying on top of people. That's the word in the streets. I wish I'd been better, because out of my 100, I probably only built, I maybe 30 strong relationships, and I wish it would have been 100 strong relationships. But I just had a buyer that I worked with a year and a half or a year or so ago, couldn't get qualified. Every couple months, I would just say, hey, just so you know, I didn't think about you. Can't wait till, you're at that spot. And I got her under contract this month. And so she reached back out. But I would literally just do the calendar thing, where you can just remind yourself, and you just put the number in the calendar. So it's very easy. You just put their first name and their number in the calendar, and just say, hey, text hi to Susie at 330 and then you can do it. But I bet with Boomtown, there's a way to automate that.
Yes,
I don't know.
we need to
yet.
get in it. You still need to finish your training.
I just didn't know if it was like too much, not enough, like,
I-
so monthly you basically.
I mean, monthly,
if they're
and,
still
and
looking.
really, so like, especially if you've met them before, I mean, it's just, and you know their situation, and you can, it's always, even monthly is fine, if there was somebody who's not qualified yet,
Right.
because you're also sending them listings, and most of those people don't know they're automated. Which surprises me because it seems so obvious, but,
Right.
but they
Yeah.
think that you are actively, like, this girl literally thought I was sending her listings every day for a year and a half. Like,
And how they think that is because how we know they think that is because they call you or text you and say, hey, thanks so much for sending me that house on. And then they ask you questions and you're like, what the hell house are we talking about
Yeah.
here, right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm
so
like,
yeah,
no problem. I have
yes.
been thinking about you every day for 365 days. Like, I've been sending them.
So just trying to stay in front of them as much as possible.
It-
And I mean, most popped for you. Obviously, some probably fell off.
I'm
but-
sure they did. I'm sure, yeah, my conversion, but I think a text or phone call is a lot more personal than that email. You know, texting, like getting somebody, like actually having a little conversation with them, that's part of the relationship building. Versus that email is not building any relationships. It's just like a random lazy home that's sent out to them. When you text them, say hi, that's a relationship building step every month.
Mhm.
They know it's actually you, for sure.
What about the people that don't respond to you?
We just go to their house. No, I'm just no, people that don't respond. So at one point in time, so hopefully you get so busy
That
You-
you can just,
that you don't have to waste and hunt down people, or that you can hire somebody
Mhm.
or put them on an automated drip campaign. There were a couple people that didn't respond. I didn't necessarily harass them. There were a couple, like one time this guy hadn't responded to me, and we had a good conversation, and like we'd even met up once.
okay,
And then like he kind of like ghosted me,
okay.
and like I think like he hadn't answered me for like a month, and I just texted him. I think at one time I was just, I don't know, I think I was bored, and I just texted him and said, hey, are you mad at me? And he was, and then he finally answered. Like he hadn't
Funny.
answered all months. He was like, no, me and my wife are having problems, and blah
Okay.
blah blah. I'm not into
Okay.
it. But like, I mean, sometimes I'll just be like, why aren't you answering me?
Yeah.
Like, or just like straight out ask
Do you want
him.
me to stop reaching out? kind
Yeah,
of thing?
like I don't
Yeah.
want to bother you, but I could like make you mad, like or
Right.
something. And then you sometimes, if you make people feel bad about that, like, are you mad
Right.
at me? Like they'll answer you. But
Yeah,
ultimately, I didn't have too much time to chase
right.
like people that
Those
like, if they
people.
didn't want to work with me, like
That's
I'll
right.
work
You
with
can
them.
move on.
So that's a good position to be in. But if I was hunting down every single one, I would be relentless, and then straight up at a certain point, just straight up ask them, why are you ignoring me?
Yeah.
Like, am I annoying? Is it me? Am I the problem?
Right.
Am I the
Awesome.
problem?
Anything else, guys? Anyone on Zoom with any other questions? Boys in the room?
Anybody, any Zoom people? Okay.
All right, guys. Well, this is your chance to unmute yourself and ask questions. Or not.
No, it's,
I would just say one thing I do, what I did
Yeah.
with the MLS search, I
Mhm.
would date it. Like 214 search,
oh,
so that I knew how long they had been looking. So when I
Nice.
went back to reference, because once that goes away, it's hard to see, so that's something.
Yeah, the MLS, several MLSs ago, there used to be a notes section,
Uh-huh.
and then you could date things. Like before
Yeah.
CRMs, we used to have to use the MLS for a CRM, and dating it would be
Right,
definitely a
so
big
I
deal.
just date the
The
search,
search.
214 search,
I like that.
and then that way I can see, they
Right.
don't care.
No,
I care.
that's right,
It's like, hey, you've been looking for 2 months and where are we at?
right,
And I think for follow-up, each client is different.
correct.
So like the follow-up is different, because I may set a reminder, follow up in 3 months, but I follow up in 3 months. Just to check in with no pressure,
Right,
because I still need buyers 3 months from now, 6 months. from now.
That's
So,
right.
Like,
absolutely.
so it's okay if I wait 2 years, a year, 3
Absolutely.
months to get the buyer, because I need them.
absolutely. I'm glad you said, because I'm very low pressure too. I never pressure anyone into writing an offer, and it needs to be there. And that's almost why I made up the offer thing, because people stress out about what they're going to write their offer.
Right,
At one point I think I just said, hey, we don't know what we're gonna write offer. I'll just write as strong as you can, and then
Yeah.
if you don't like it, we'll change it from there. You
Yeah,
know, and
I like
then
that.
and then there's no pressure on anybody, because they're like, okay, this is physically as strong as I can. it takes a lot of pressure on them because they're always worried like, what if I lose and I could have done more and I could have,
Yeah,
you can't do more. Here it is.
correct.
You know?
Yeah, yeah, I like
Um,
that.
And I think like you said, you're educating them while you're there visiting with them from the start. And I can't tell you how many clients that I've met the first time and they're like, you're the first person that's explained anything to me. And
Yeah.
I'm like, how can that be?
Yeah,
Like, and there's just so many of them that I've run into that have said that to me. It's
Yeah.
just hard to believe it's
Well,
happening.
you can tell too, because if you go out and just look at open houses and shadow people, not shadow, but go check out others' open houses and see the passive agent who stands in the kitchen, they're probably the same passive agent that's not necessarily making that relationship either. 'Cause that's your great chance if you're in an open house, if you're standing there saying, come talk to me if you have any questions, that's not the best way.
Well,
So same.
What the point like, so what are you finding that when it comes to like education, what are you like what are some of the things like, I know what you're talking about because I did the same. I walked through and educate. It's not just like here's the kitchen, but do you think of any like examples as far as like I know like a lot of them have questions like what do FHA and you know stuff like that, you know, finance, or like what are they looking for in the house? But you mean just like about housing market in general, or
Yeah, just how the market's going. It's a seller's market. What
yeah,
it's gonna take to win. Do they need closing costs? You know, just understanding what they need from the lender. I push that so much so that they are pre-approved. I said, you need to be pre-approved so that I can help you the best way possible. And the only way I can do that is if you speak to a lender. I said, so the best way for me to represent you is to speak with the lender so I can talk with them and make sure that we're on the same page. So it really makes a difference and just getting to know the people, like you said. Like I talked to a guy that we're under contract right now. He said in 5 minutes, you've asked me more questions than this guy I was talking with for a couple months, and I just randomly had met him.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So it's just getting to know the people, like you said, relationships.
And I think caring about them is a big thing too. Like care actually I really like want these people to win. It's not just a paycheck. Oh, you know,
Sure.
obviously the closing is nice,
Right.
you know, for
Yeah.
all involved, but it's I really like if they want this home, like I care about you getting this home. I care about you getting the
Well,
best
and
deal.
they know that you care because you ask questions.
Right.
So anything we're buying, right? Like I don't want to go into a furniture store or a car dealership and not have someone ask me what I'm looking for. They don't just point me to the car if I don't tell them what I'm here to look at, right? So same thing. They expect that you're going to basically interview them. We don't have this challenge with sellers for some reason, but we do with buyers. Like we all know if you're going on a listing appointment, you better be the top of your game and you better have a presentation and you better be asking questions about the house. But we don't feel the same necessarily everyone with buyers. But it is, you're still getting a client to agree to work with you. So I think that's why there's so many people that might say, I have 5 agents I've talked to and not any of them really asked me what I was looking for. So, yeah.
Do you do the same, Eric? Like I know, because I know you get a lot of leads and I mean, do you one meet or are they pre?
Oh yeah, I want to meet as fast as I can.
Okay.
I mean, because that's where they can see me and I build a relationship. And, you know, I tell them, you know, Ken and I were talking and they're like, well, I'm working with another agent. And I just flat out tell them, I don't work with people that are working with multiple agents because I just don't do that. I mean, I want you to be loyal to me and I'm going to be loyal to you. And if they want to do that, I don't want to work with them. I'd rather them hang up the phone on me than anything. Because I know I'm not going to waste my time. Because I'll be the one that shows them 9 houses.
Yeah, and then
The
they
10th house is when
They make an
Preston
offer.
gets it.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely. I always tell them, look, would always drop whatever I'm doing to get you in a house, and I will be 100% accessible to you. I can't do that. Like if you're, and I don't know. I never made people sign the buyer's agreement. I don't know. I did people have different variant things.
Sure.
Because I had so many people come to me that had them and then broke them with other agents. So I'm
Correct.
like, why is it?
You get it signed at the time of the,
Yeah.
right, you do it when they write an offer, but
Right.
I would also say what I'm hearing you say too, and I think everyone needs to get this message. It's getting in front of them. You have to offer first. If you wait for them to say, hey, Dan, can you show me this house? And they don't know you yet because they're an internet lead versus you saying, hey, you know, I saw that this was the house you were looking at. I can get you in there in 2 hours. Do you want to see it? you have to be willing to get off your butt and do it. Like, I think that's a huge challenge. I think a lot of people are much more passive because they really want to work with buyers, but don't really want to do the things that it takes. So that means if I don't ask the question, can I show you the house? They might not ask you,
Right.
right?
Oh, absolutely. They don't know, like,
Yeah,
half of them, like Zillow calls would think they're talking to the listing agent or something.
Correct.
They don't
They don't
know
know.
who, they don't know
Yeah.
who you are. So if you're like, hey, we can go out, because they're like, how's this process work?
Right.
You know, we're on the phone. I don't
well,
know.
when a passive call is, hey, here's the information, let me set you up in a search and I'll follow up with you in a couple of weeks. That's not going to necessarily make it happen. But if you turn that around to, I'll get your information, we'll ask some questions, we'll get you set up in the search. And by the way, I'm available today at 5 and I see that there's an opening. Can we go take a look at the house? That's going to be the thing that's going to convert the lead to make, give you much more opportunities. So I know for a fact that a lot of the agents, newer and even not newer, aren't offering their time like that.
Right.
So that's a key.
Yeah, I mean, and then some of the new agents I know, I have heard some people say like, well, what about going and show, if you don't know these people, is it safe?
We don't know any people we work with ever.
Yeah.
Like, that's never going to change, right?
Yeah, right.
And then you can use that forewarn app, but I do hear people say
I've
that a
heard
lot.
yeah.
And it's not to say that we shouldn't be cautious, but let's face it, it doesn't matter if I talk to you 6 times and then I go show you a house, or I talk to you for 6 minutes and go show you a
All right.
house.
Pre-approved people commit crimes too.
That is right. That is right. Or use a fake name or
Yeah.
whatever the thing is. So
Yeah.
anybody else on Zoom with any questions before we wrap it up? All right, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Guys
you.
for watching.
Thank you, guys.
Hopefully.